Hello, my name is Simone McNish and I'm a certified DEI practitioner, so that's diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I am here to talk a little bit about inclusivity and why it matters. So a little bit about me. Like I said, I'm a certified DEI practitioner, so I do consulting, workshop facilitation, and one-on-one coaching for leadership and different organizations who are interested in developing their workforce, training their employees to be allies, nonprofits who are looking to diversify their board, and also I do work with entrepreneurs on how to make their marketing a little bit more inclusive. So I do a little bit of everything. But today we are going to be talking about inclusivity and why it matters. So you might be here because you are wondering, is inclusivity something I should invest my time in? Is inclusivity something that I should invest my money into? And the answer is yes. Or maybe you are here because you already believe you have an equitable organization. You already think that you've achieved this amazing inclusion status, but the truth is that you're getting some feedback that maybe things aren't as inclusive as you would have thought or hoped for. So you're here, you're in the right place, and we're going to talk about the three main reasons why inclusivity matters for your organization, for your workplace, for your business. So before we get started, I just want to say that inclusivity also truly matters because the key to a sustainable organization or company is diversity. So diversity and inclusion, sometimes they go hand in hand, but you can absolutely have diversity, so people from different backgrounds, different identities, without having inclusion. Inclusion is that big table that every single person gets to sit at. Not only do they get to sit at the table, but they have an invitation. They have the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory golden letter, right? Or the golden ticket, I should say. So they're invited to the table. Now, a lot of people think that inclusion is a trend. Inclusion was something that happened in 2020. Inclusion was a result of, racial uprising and protests, but that is not what necessarily the whole picture with inclusion, right? Inclusion means inviting people from different backgrounds, different sexual orientations, different walks of life, different ethnicities, different genders, all into the same place so you can make sure that you're building a team that is harmonious, make sure that you are bringing everyone together in the most organic way possible, while also identifying and celebrating everyone's different identities. So a few different facts about inclusion and diversity before we dive into the reasons why inclusivity matters. The first fact, and I apologize, I will be looking at my phone a little bit, but the first fact is that the US is actually going to reach, so everyone who is considered right now a racial minority, I usually don't like to use the term minority. Instead, I like to use the term global majority because people of color, you might hear the term people of color or BIPOC, Black, Indigenous person of color. So that population of people by 2044 will be the majority, right? And that's why the term global majority is being used so frequently now. So there's about to be a change of the tides, and now is the best time to be inclusive and to get ahead of what is going on and to really understand people's different identities, right? And how to work together. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that 48% of Gen Z are actually racially or ethnically diverse, right? So that means that 48% of this younger population that's coming into the workforce is actually racially diverse. So what that means is there's going to be different cultures to think about. It's really going to be a time to be inclusive of all different people, all different identities. So it's incredibly important to realize that these facts are not going away. Lastly, ethnically lastly, 3 out of 4 workers prefer diverse companies. Now, while these stats are all about diversity, this ties into inclusion. So a lot of times what will happen is, diverse employees, especially racially diverse employees, are looking to join a company that looks and reflects them, right? Looks and reflects their values, and also does the workforce make up of people that actually look like you? Or if you are a person of color, if you're like me, if you're black, and you see that there's no black people on the executive team, that's a red flag. That's a red flag on inclusion, that's a red flag on diversity, and that's a red flag on equity. So inclusivity definitely matters, and absolutely, when diverse employees are looking to join the organization or join the team, they are looking for these things. So they're incredibly important to look out for. So now that we have the stats out of the way, I don't want to bombard you with stats and figures and data. I love data, I love figures, I love statistics, but we're here to talk about truly, why does inclusivity matter? Why does inclusivity matter for your organization? Why does inclusivity matter for your business or for your nonprofit? Here is why it matters. So number 1, it matters because, sorry, I have all my notes messed up, but it matters because more belonging leads to more productivity, right? Raise your hand if you've ever met a person who's been completely checked out of their job, right? They feel ostracized, they feel excluded, they feel like their opinion isn't heard. That is not the goal, right? The goal is actually to have a fully functioning team, and you want people to feel like they belong, because belonging leads to better productivity, okay? You don't want an ill-functioning team. You truly want to make sure that you are watering everyone's gifts, that everyone feels valued, everyone feels included, regardless of their skin color, regardless of their sexual orientation, regardless of if they are transgender or not, right? So you have to make sure that not only that you don't pretend that everyone is the same, right? Inclusion does not mean that you pretend everyone's the exact same. It means that you honor the differences in everyone, right? And everyone is still invited to the meeting. Everyone is invited into the all hands and whatnot. So making sure that you are being inclusive is incredibly important as an individual and as a manager and as a person who is in a leadership position, because belonging matters, and it definitely affects productivity. Number 2, so I already mentioned this, but I think it's worth mentioning again, but the second reason why inclusivity matters is because the world is becoming more racially diverse. So what that means is that because the world is, I wouldn't say changing, because racially diverse people, black people, people of color, Asian people, Latin people have been around for a very long time, right? But historically, workplaces have not supported us, okay? So we have been around a very long time, but we have not been supported, right? And because a lot of times there's a lack of cultural understanding. There's a lack of meeting employees, meeting leadership, meeting people in positions who are not white, right? Or who are not cisgender, or who are not heterosexual, right? There has been a hard time bridging the gap. And so now more than ever, inclusivity matters, because the current landscape of the workforce is changing, right? We are seeing more people of color in C-suites. Barely. We still have we still have a lot of work to do. We are seeing people who are non-binary, who are coming into leadership positions, and the other leadership team doesn't know what to say or to do. So now is the time for inclusivity, and inclusivity starts also with cultural awareness, trainings, and also digging deep into the bias that we all have, right? So cultural awareness is key, and the world is becoming more diverse, so that's why inclusivity matters. Lastly, I always like to say this last because I don't like to lead with profit or revenue or anything like that, because that is not really truly part of my core values. Is to make more money, is to make more profit. And I really believe that companies who value people over profit will naturally become more profitable anyway. But the bottom line is that according to Built-in, so builtin.com, I believe it was builtin.com. So gender diverse companies are 15% more likely to be more profitable than non-gender diverse companies. So that means more women in the C-suite level, more women at the executive level, means that there is greater profit. I mean, you really can't argue with those stats, because profit is profit, right? If the business is running well, usually there's more profit. Of course, this is not always the case. There are incredibly profitable companies who are doing some really shady things and also not treating their employees well. So that's why I don't like to lead with profit. But if you really want to make the most out of your organization, make the most out of your company, make the most out of your business, then you need to incorporate inclusive business practices and inclusive leadership habits, right? Because inclusion really makes sure that everyone is bringing their unique opinion to the table. That means asking the quieter person, hey, what did you think about this? Or pulling them aside after a meeting and saying, like, I didn't hear you talk very much. Is there anything going on? Can I support you? How can we make sure that we all hear your voice? If they don't want to talk in a meeting, then saying something like, well, you can type it to me, I can bring it up, or, we can have a feedback session afterwards via email. There's so many ways to make people feel included. Being silenced, having microaggressions, being harassed, all of those things are the opposite of inclusive behavior. And the thing about non-inclusive behavior or exclusive behavior, it doesn't mean that you are a bad person if you have been part of this behavior or you have omitted this behavior, but you have a responsibility to be accountable as a leader, as an employee, as a business owner, right? So making sure that you understand your role in inclusivity is incredibly important, because we don't want those barriers like microaggressions to get in the way of having an incredible team dynamic, or in the way of making the most profit. You know how I feel about profit as well. But if you want to have a well-oiled business or a well-oiled organization, then inclusivity absolutely matters. So I thank you so much for watching this video and learning a little bit more about inclusion and why inclusivity matters. I definitely recommend that you subscribe to this channel. I will be starting to make more videos on inclusion and diversity and some behind the scenes about my business, but I thank you so much for being here. If you want to book me for a training or a facilitation or consulting, definitely check the link in my bio. My website is freshly updated. I'm so excited, and it has all of the ways to contact me. You can just go through my website to contact me, and we can get started in talking about your organization, your goals, and how we can make things a little bit more equitable and a little bit more, hopefully a lot more actually, inclusive. So thank you so much. Bye.